Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
An avalanche of anti-Asian hate on news of our interracial marriage.
A racist backlash after a magazine feature on her wedding to Vancouver's former mayor. Also,
we ask about whether we're in a third wave. It really is.
As cases rise, why COVID-19 is hitting young people hard. And
it's going to a new level of busy.
BC's bike boom. The uphill climb to find a new set of wheels and parts.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. One of the happiest days of her life led to a nasty racist backlash. Eileen Park's wedding to a former Vancouver mayor was featured in a popular magazine. And as Andrea Ross reports tonight, with anti-Asian racism in the spotlight, Park was horrified by the ugly reaction.
I was bombarded with hate-filled messages.
It was meant to be a happy moment shared with the world. Eileen Park married former Vancouver Mayor Gregor Robertson in a small sunset ceremony in Stanley Park late last year. The photos were published in Vogue magazine last week. But soon after, Park received a flurry of racist, sexist, and misogynistic comments.
People laughing about men having yellow fever, Asian women having universal slots, and comment after comment dismissing me as a young Asian girl.
This came just days after 6 Asian women were shot and killed in Atlanta. Park was compelled to call out the racism she has experienced throughout her life, racism that can lead to violence.
Hate starts somewhere. And it doesn't start with blatant hate. It doesn't start with, oh, I hate Asian people. It doesn't start there. It starts with thousands and thousands and thousands of small slights othering us, exoticizing us, fetishizing us.
Anti-Asian hate crimes increased by more than 700% in Vancouver last year. Advocates say the perception of Asian women as sex symbols is unacceptable and devalues their talents and humanity.
It further reinforced the fact that, women of color or women who are Asian descent has no substance, no capability of doing anything except using their gender as a way to advance their careers.
Park knows her experience isn't unique.
These are not isolated experiences. They happen over and over and over again.
She hopes speaking out will encourage people to rethink their own biases.
When there's an attitude of inclusion and when there's an attitude of acceptance, then that changes everything.
And that starts with denouncing anti-Asian racism in all its forms. Andrea Ross, CBC News, Vancouver.
Almost 1,800 new COVID-19 cases over the weekend, 16 more deaths. Tanya Fletcher is here live tonight with the latest update. Tanya, seems we are in this third wave. The latest numbers not good at all.
No, and Mike, the 7-day rolling average now has us back up around 600 new cases a day. That's the highest we've been at in 3 months. The health minister made a point of listing nearly every single metric, saying those numbers are heading in the wrong direction.
Hospitalizations, people in ICU, daily infections, 7-day weekly average, COVID variant cases, people in self-isolation, BC's active cases are all too high. If you're thinking of going out for a birthday celebration or someone invites you to a wedding celebration somewhere, do not go right now.
He emphasized that indoor gatherings continue to be a major issue. Some people planning big celebrations, he says, in the near future. So if that's where the problem lies with our increasing numbers, then why isn't the message getting through? And what's going to be done about it? Well, the provincial health officer says they will be monitoring and enforcing the public health orders.
And we in public health will be taking a concerted effort with our partnerships with WorkSafe BC to make sure that we are holding establishments to account for their safety plans and for things that they're doing.
And Tanya, we're also hearing more about an alarming new trend. More and more young people are being severely impacted by COVID-19.
Yes, an increasing number of young people are ending up in the hospital, and public health officials say it is very concerning. Younger people, many in their 30s and 40s, are requiring critical care for longer periods of time, and more of them are dying too. Dr. Bonnie Henry says there isn't one common denominator that could point to why we're seeing this age demographic hit harder now. But transmission is happening in several places, social settings, community settings like crowded households and workplaces. And she says there are many other factors too.
Some of it's related to where some of the community clusters are being seen. We saw that with some of the outbreaks that were happening in First Nations community, where people at a younger age were much more likely to need hospitalization or critical care, and sadly where we've seen younger people die from the virus.
And she adds, with more transmission happening in younger people, the probability of severe illness in younger people also goes up. Mike?
All right, Tanya Fletcher, thanks for the update tonight. Well, frustration and anger tonight from a local dance instructor. The classes she runs in Burnaby have been shut down by Fraser Health over COVID-19 transmission concerns. As Karen Larson reports, the very same class she operates in 2 other locations continue to run.
This is the Burnaby adult dance class in question, the one that was shut down by a Fraser Health inspector 3 weeks ago, sight unseen, even though the same class in Surrey and Maple Ridge is still running without any problem.
They didn't ask for my protocols, they didn't speak to me on the phone, they didn't come view a class, they just told me that what I was doing was high intensity when it's not.
In a letter, Fraser Health told Burnham under current provincial health orders, all adult dance classes are considered group high-intensity exercise, the same as a spin class or hot yoga, and therefore disallowed. But Burnham argues if an inspector would actually view her class, they would see it as the opposite of high intensity.
I could walk to a studio that will remain nameless, but I could walk there from here and they are running adult dance classes. So I'm not sure why I've been targeted. I've been teaching for 18 years, so I'm very well versed in what is high intensity and what isn't, and we are very clearly low intensity.
In an email, Fraser Health told CBC it has not authorized any adult dance classes within the region. The health authority says it only investigates dance studios not complying with health orders on a case-by-case basis when it receives complaints. Karen Larson, CBC News, Vancouver.
There are calls tonight to suspend the clinical exam requirement for new physiotherapists. Those exams were abruptly canceled again on the weekend, for the 3rd time since the start of the pandemic. As Joel Ballard reports, it comes at a time when BC is already facing a shortage of physiotherapists.
I didn't have a very good night's sleep with anxiety and nerves.
Gemma Gregg set her alarm extra early Saturday morning. She was supposed to take a virtual clinical exam to become a fully licensed physiotherapist.
I got the email to say that the exam was cancelled. And I was like, is this a joke or is this a mistake?
It wasn't. For the 3rd time since the start of the pandemic, the exam had been cancelled. The careers of new graduates in limbo. Understandably, they're frustrated.
It's taken me a long time to actually psych myself up to a point where I felt ready to do the exam.
Hours of daily studying, time off work, a 10-week prep course, a lengthy process candidates have had to do over and over and over again. All Greg was told was that the attempt to deliver the exam online was unsuccessful. The platform was insufficient. The exam is provided by the Canadian Alliance of Physiotherapy Regulators. The first exam in June was cancelled due to COVID, then again in September with little notice, now this. CBC News reached out to the Alliance but was told it was too busy putting the needs of its clients first. This recent failure has many graduates questioning whether the Alliance is up to the task. Their concerns echoed both provincially.
This is unacceptable, serious failure in being able to run this exam, and they should be able to do it.
And nationally.
This is untenable for the candidates and for our profession, so it's just not acceptable.
And the backlog of licensing new physiotherapists comes at a difficult time.
In British Columbia, we have a shortage of physiotherapists, both in the private sector and in the public sector.
BC graduates around 80 to 100 a year. It needs 3 times that. Graduates can practice with an interim license while they wait for their exam, but it has its drawbacks. They're often paid less, unable to specialize, and there's the stigma of the title interim.
Sometimes people can be turned off by that because they don't think, oh, like they're not as qualified or whatever, when they fully are.
For Greg, it's the uncertainty that's the most difficult. Her career indefinitely placed on hold.
Ultimately, we want to help people, and the general public are suffering as well because we aren't fully licensed.
Joel Ballard, CBC News, Vancouver.
On this World Water Day, a protest outside the Vancouver headquarters of an oil exploration company. The demonstration was held by Extinction Rebellion in partnership with communities within Namibia and Botswana. They're concerned about risks the environment may be facing by work done by Recon Africa.
Where they're drilling is a very sensitive ecosystem. It has groundwater that could risk contamination, which we're already seeing evidence of because with their first drill test site, they didn't line the pit. And there's also fears about it contaminating the Okavango Delta because of the way that the waters work in that region.
The area licensed by Recon Africa provides water for more than 1 million people. Well, the government of India is lashing out against celebrities and activists supporting farmers over agricultural reforms. As Salima Shivji reports tonight, the global spotlight appears to be helping the farmers' cause, and protesters are taking note.
At the sign of a camera, I'm interrupted mid-sentence, and the crowds converge. These farmers, camped out for months now in protest of India's new farm laws, know the world is watching. They saw this, one of the world's biggest pop stars, wondering why the world wasn't talking about the large-scale protests.
For one tweet,
suddenly making everyone talk about it.
One single tweet, and the internet went crazy with
the media too, after climate activist Greta Thunberg and other stars joined in. On the streets, there was anger from some hardline pro-government groups intent on burning the celebrities' photos. But at the largest farmers' protest site, even weeks later, there's gratitude.
Rihanna basically supported to us. We feel very, very thankful.
This farmer has been here since late November, watching the international reaction with glee. He says if Rihanna can tweet and the Indian government gets so scared, that is powerful. India's Foreign Affairs Ministry did lash out, dismissing what it called inaccurate and sensationalist social media comments. Just as it did when Justin Trudeau, prioritizing domestic politics and speaking to Canada's large Sikh diaspora community, became the first world leader to comment on the protests last December. Not on the substance, but on the violence that greeted the first demonstrations. This former diplomat was so affronted, she and a dozen others wrote a scathing open letter addressed to Canada's Prime Minister.
These laws are an internal matter of India. It's not a matter of any international concern or any other country.
The farmers say the new laws will hand control over crop prices to large corporations and destroy livelihoods. The government has disparaged the protesters, calling them extremists. A sign for this journalist of a left-leaning magazine that the sustained protests are rattling a highly sensitive government.
The government hates being publicly criticized. They are worried about how the world outside is perceiving what is happening.
The international spotlight may have dimmed somewhat, but the battle of perception is far from over, with the protesters entrenched, vowing to stay put. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Delhi.
Residents of North Vancouver rallied today, hoping to keep chainsaws away from an ancient cedar tree. Developers want to chop it down to make way for a new development, but locals aren't letting the fir go without a fight. The city and construction companies say it's just not possible to save the tree.
It feels like there's 17,000 voices that are being unheard. So I'm here to just support the community and represent the community to the best I can. But really, we're just here to say that this tree is important to us. It's been important to us. and we hope that it stands for the next 200 years. Yeah.
Unless Darwin Construction has a change of heart, the tree could come down this week. Well, thousands of dead herring have been dumped off the coast of Vancouver Island. Conservationists received a tip that a commercial fishing vessel had dumped its load in Deep Bay near Bowser. It claims it happened after a packing vessel had refused the ship's catch. The Hornby Island Conservancy sent a diver down to gather this video footage.
So there was definitely a lot of herring just sitting at the bottom of the bay here, and all of those herring were taken for absolutely no reason.
Fisheries and Oceans Canada says it's aware of the alleged dumping incident and an investigation is ongoing. Well, the province and the city of Victoria are committing to ending homeless camps. A memorandum of understanding lays out roles and responsibilities to provide housing for the homeless. The city says it will find spaces for those camped out in public areas by April 30th. It'll also try to manage potential homeless camps. Johanna Wagstaff away tonight. Nick Czernkovich joins us now with the forecast. And you've got some rain totals so far in the month of March, Nick?
Yeah, I've been following these, Mike, over the last few weeks since the beginning of March because we have actually had a fairly less rainfall than what we're used to for the month of March. And it doesn't look like as we close out the month that we're actually going to come even close to the monthly average. And I'm going to show you the numbers here. Now, I had actually shown you the same board about a week ago or so, and I've updated the numbers here. Now, so far this month, as of yesterday, the rainfall total in Vancouver Airport is 23.5 millimeters. The average for the entire month of March is 112 millimeters of rain or thereabouts. Now, as I said before, I mean, this might not be exactly representative of your neighborhood, but in general, we've seen significantly less rainfall than the average in the month of March. And there's really only one sort of rainfall event, if you will, that we're expecting over the next 7 days. And I'm going to talk about that in your long-range forecast. But for now, dry conditions. Mostly, we've had partly cloudy skies, at times sunny skies across the region there. We're still seeing a few tapering showers down around the Victoria area. Those will dissipate very shortly. As we head through tomorrow, we're looking at generally cloudy skies, although some sunny breaks in there as well. It's not until we get to Wednesday where we get this next rainfall event. And that one there is going to bring with it about 5 to 15 millimeters of rain in general. So not a whole lot of rain. For tomorrow, though, it stays dry. 2 degrees tonight, 4 for the morning, and 10 for the afternoon. Your full forecast coming up in just a bit, Mike.
All right. Well, nice to see the sun today, particularly after that relentless rain of yesterday. All right, Nick, thanks so much. We will talk to you again in a bit. Well, cycling has become big business during the pandemic. Cooped up Canadians have been buying bicycles, seeing it as a relatively safe way to keep active and get outdoors. But as Jacqueline Hansen reports, getting new bikes and parts, even here in BC, is proving to be an uphill climb.
Vancouver's Side Saddle Bike Shop is so busy, they stopped answering the phone last spring.
Due to the COVID bike boom, we are receiving over 400 inquiries per day.
We kept thinking we would have to change that message and go back to answering the phone, but it never calmed down. Come on in.
While business is booming, inventory is about half what it's supposed to be.
A lot of what we would plan to sell in April is already gone.
The store is ordering as many more bikes as it can, but there are roadblocks.
We have one shipment that's waiting entirely on left front brake levers.
Some parts can't get made fast enough to satisfy the COVID-induced frenzy. HLC Canada imports bikes, parts, and accessories from Asia and distributes them to stores in Canada. It says its suppliers have ramped up production.
A factory could be running, let's say used to run on a 12-hour schedule, and now they're running 18 or 24 hours a day.
But there simply aren't enough hours in a day, and building more factories won't happen until there's confidence the boom isn't a blip. Plus, raw materials are in high demand, and so are the shipping containers to transport the finished goods to market.
We're not just in a bike boom here, we're in a durable consumer goods boom, and so that's what's filling up those containers and causing a big stress on the shipping companies.
Quebec-based Cycles Da Vinci makes its aluminum frames in Canada and imports other parts from overseas. It's producing as many bikes as it can, but its retail partners want even more.
For the next 12 months, I don't think that the bicycle industry is going to be able to catch up with the demand.
At Toronto's Metro Cycle, spring usually looks like a fully stocked store. Not this year.
It kind of, keeps you up at night a little bit when you have customers coming in, they look for bikes and then they leave. So we're kind of waiting.
But shop owners expect some bikes to arrive soon and more throughout the summer.
We will have bikes, they just have to wait. It's not going to be the end of the world. We're trying our hardest here.
Patience the key for enthusiasts and the industry as cycling's wild ride continues. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
And a reminder, you can also watch our newscasts live on CBC Gem. CBC Vancouver is also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. While another trial comes and goes, the fate of Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor yet to be decided. Bringing the latest on their time in Chinese court next. And thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream tonight. Well, do you have a binder of sports or Pokemon cards buried somewhere in your basement or in storage or a closet? It could be worth a lot of money. The business of collecting and selling cards has been booming during the pandemic. Talia Ricci has more on the card craze.
Hopefully, some of these kids held on to their beloved Pokemon cards, like Logan Fournier did.
And I came across my old Pokemon collection, and I was like, oh, this is crazy. Everything's like sleeved in perfect condition.
He never expected a trip to his mom's basement would spark a successful business, launched during the pandemic.
If you guys have questions, please just ask them while I'm doing this. Some of the cards are going for like $5,000, $10,000, and I was like, this is weird. Like, there's something here. So we opened the store, and honestly, it just accelerated from there.
From Pokemon to sports cards, shops say the demand in the last few months has skyrocketed.
Almost as soon as the pandemic started last year, sports cards started booming. A huge comeback for hockey and vintage sports cards. Any of the big Hall of Fame names, if you have any of those cards in good condition, you're looking at a lot of money. A Wayne Gretzky card just sold for 1.3 million. Sales have gone up maybe 1,000%, tenfold. So yeah, it's been very, very busy for us.
Which I bought for, I think, $350,000.
Live streams where YouTubers and celebrities open packs have created a certain sense of community at a time when people can't gather to play and trade. This year also marks Pokemon's 25th anniversary.
People obviously have more time to spend on their hobbies by virtue of the fact that we're sort of in a lockdown situation. Card collecting is something which we can do at home.
If you do end up coming across an old binder of sports cards or Pokemon cards in your basement, experienced collectors recommend looking up the cards online to get a sense of how much they're worth, and then getting them graded, which proves the condition they're in.
For me, it was just like a nice outlet to kind of like just cool off. As a kid, I was just like, I got immersed in the world and I really liked that. It was just like fun to play.
Oh, we got the trainer.
You actually got a really good card.
Nice.
I think it'll continue to grow. Hopefully, it'll just get passed down from generation to generation.
A nostalgic hobby that continues to thrive in a digital world. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
A lot of those hanging around, that's for sure. Okay, back in just a couple of seconds with more national and international news. Until then, enjoy this view, the Port of Vancouver, on a lovely Monday evening at 6:22. Like Michael Spavor last week, Michael Kovrig's trial in China has also ended mysteriously with no verdict. The future remains unclear for the two detained men, and as Evan Dyer explains, Canada is now turning up the pressure on Beijing.
Almost the whole Western diplomatic corps turned out at the Beijing courthouse, though none were allowed to enter.
The United States stands shoulder to shoulder with Canada in calling for the immediate release of their 2 citizens from arbitrary detention.
Kovrig's wife said the show of unity was heartening.
Michael and Michael's Spavor happened to be Canadian, but I think others understand that it could have happened to some other countries as well.
Canada, by assembling a number of countries to pressure China, it is not what diplomatic staff should do.
Chinese officials scolded Canada for recruiting allies and insisted it will change nothing. But China experts say the costs are mounting for Beijing.
It's a show of strength that the West is coming together effectively to stand up against China.
Ong says China's government doesn't like the way the world is lining up against it.
I think it is too early to say that they are regretting their earlier action, but I think the options are becoming rather limited.
Another act of Western unity came today.
These measures reflect our grave concern.
When Canada joined the US, EU, and UK in applying Magnitsky sanctions on Chinese officials for their involvement in a campaign of persecution against Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities. But Bill Browder, the man who invented those sanctions, says it's a missed opportunity, that Canada could have used them on officials responsible for jailing Kovrig and Spavor.
This is a way of responding and doing something to the Chinese that they care about, in which they would feel pain.
Meanwhile, the Chinese Communist Party sought to show it still has friends, announcing a tightening of its alliance with Moscow.
I think they must be worried also about the upcoming summit of democracies that has been called by President Biden that will take place in April.
Saint-Jacques says Canada should try to get support from Asian democracies like Japan, India, and South Korea. Experts say China is feeling the pressure, but still not enough to make it change course. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
Meantime, the federal government is imposing sanctions on China for human rights abuses. As Catherine Cullen reports, it's unclear what the move will mean for the 2 Canadians who've been on trial for spying.
These measures reflect our grave concern.
The Prime Minister won't call what is happening to the Uyghurs in China a genocide, but Canada is hitting Chinese officials with sanctions. They target 4 individuals that Canada says participated in gross and systematic human rights violations against the Muslim minority, including internment camps, forced labor, and sterilizations.
I think that the message is that the world is watching you.
Canada's sanctions are part of an international effort, including the United States, European Union, and United Kingdom.
The international community cannot simply look the other way.
We believe that this gets the message across in a much more direct and powerful way.
But for Canada, the greatest significance is that it comes on the heels of the trials of Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig. There was a show of international solidarity there, too, with diplomats from 26 countries coming to the courthouse for Kovrig's trial, though they weren't allowed to attend.
We remain deeply concerned at the lack of minimum procedural protections granted the 2 Canadian citizens during their 2 years of arbitrary detention.
The Prime Minister denies any connection between the trials and the sanctions.
No,
there's no link, he told reporters today, saying it was important to act with other countries on the sanctions. Though the move could still impact the 2 Canadians, angering or perhaps chastening the Chinese regime, while Kovrig and Spavor both await a verdict that could lead to life sentences. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
4 people are missing after fire raced through a row of houses east of Toronto.
This is very difficult.
Firefighters believe there were 9 people inside the unit where that fire started. 5 people were taken to hospital. Investigators are now trying to figure out how the fire started. An independent review says the RCMP made several missteps during the investigation into the killing of Colton Bushy. As Bonnie Allen reports, the 22-year-old Cree man was shot to death in Saskatchewan 5 years ago.
This is really hard on me.
Yet she found the strength, just as she has for nearly 5 years.
We've been waiting for this justice for a long time.
Ever since her son Colton Bushy was shot and killed by a white farmer and police came to her home.
I did not deserve to be treated the way I was treated.
This watchdog investigation sheds light on how RCMP handled its investigation into the shooting of Colton Boushie by Gerald Stanley. The conclusion, it was generally professional and reasonable. As for how police treated the family, a key finding is that officers racially discriminated against Debbie Baptiste at her home on Red Pheasant Cree Nation after the shooting.
After they told her son was dead, they had the nerve to smell her breath.
The commission found officers asked Baptiste if she had been drinking and told her to get it together. The RCMP officers involved dispute that, insisting they were compassionate.
This is how RCMP members believe you show compassion and respect to an Indigenous woman who has just lost her son. You swarm her house, you search her house, you call her a drunk, and you call her a liar.
In the official response, RCMP Commissioner Brenda Luckie accepted there was discrimination at the mother's house.
The Saskatchewan RCMP says of the 17 recommendations in the report, it has already implemented 16, including mandatory cultural awareness training for all employees.
First Nations leaders want more.
What are you going to do rather than just saying, we agree with what's been found? Big deal. Brenda Luckie, do something.
We need to do better, and I will be tasking Minister Blair and, through him, Commissioner Luckie, to make sure that things move forward in a better way.
The Boushie family and First Nations leaders say the review provides some satisfaction, but it doesn't erase the pain or solve the problem of systemic racism. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Regina.
A new U.S. study has found the AstraZeneca COVID vaccine provides strong protection against the virus and complete protection against hospitalization and death across all age groups. Canada and dozens of other countries have authorized the use of that vaccine. The U.S. so far has not. An FDA advisory committee will debate the study results before making a decision. Just days after a deadly shooting in Atlanta killed 6 Asian women, a Vancouver woman was targeted with anti-Asian comments. We'll hear from her next about her mission to suppress that hate.
From CBC News.
The people of British Columbia got some answers today about the Hydrogate affair. A report just out condemns the former chair of BC Hydro for holding a personal stake in one of the utility's investments. And it has harsh words for Premier Glenn Clark. He was the minister responsible when the scandal took place. More details now from Terry Malewski.
The report comes from a former Social Credit Attorney General of BC, Brian Smith, who was appointed by Premier Glenn Clark both to chair BC Hydro and to report on what went wrong under the last chairman, John Laxton. Laxton was fired by Clark when it turned out he had a personal financial interest in the public utilities business. But now Smith says Clark himself, as the responsible minister, made several fundamental mistakes in overseeing BC Hydro.
The government and Mr. Clark maybe should have had a better handle on what Mr. Laxton was doing. We felt also there should have been more follow-up on some of the issues, particularly shareholding.
Laxton says that his personal investments served the public interest by keeping alive a BC Hydro joint venture in Pakistan, in which he had secretly bought shares. Premier Clark took some of the blame, but left most of it on Laxton.
I accept responsibility for errors that were made in public policy. Clearly, however, the report's also pretty scathing with respect to individual behavior and also demonstrates clearly that no matter what kind of oversight we had, the government can't protect yourself from individuals who act in this fashion.
But on policy, the Smith report blames Clark for directing that the Pakistan venture be controlled by private shareholders.
The control issue was clearly a matter that the government and Mr. Clark determined, and it was one of the problems, for sure.
This story's not over. The RCMP is still looking into it. But as a political matter, Glenn Clark has already suffered and survived the damage from this affair. And the new report doesn't make it any worse. It does not suggest any wrongdoing by the Premier. It does suggest that he should have known more about what was going on at BC Hydro and that he should have done more to stop it. Dori Malewski, CBC News, Vancouver.
Our top story tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
We ask about whether we're in a third wave. It really is. We've come down from the peak of our second wave, but we have leveled out for many weeks now, and it's a slow and steady increase.
BC's top doctor says the latest COVID-19 numbers confirm we are in the third wave of the pandemic. Dr. Bonnie Henry is reporting almost 1,800 new cases from the weekend and 16 more deaths. She is also concerned that many of the infections are in people in their 30s and 40s. A Vancouver woman is facing hate head-on after one of the happiest moments of her life. Photos of Eileen Park's wedding to former Vancouver Mayor Gregor Robertson were published in Vogue magazine, and then came a stream of racist and sexist comments.
I could not keep silent about my own experience being fetishized as well. And I've been a reporter and an anchor for 12 years. And then I switched over to politics. And then now I'm here. And at every juncture in my life, I've had to experience overt racism and covert racism. And covert racism are these microaggressions, these everyday microaggressions that happen to women. Specifically, because I'm talking about my own experience. It can be anything as small as someone saying, "Where are you really from?" Or it could be something as big as someone spreading a rumor about you in a professional setting, saying you must have slept your way to the top just by virtue of being an Asian woman. And so these are not isolated experiences. They happened over and over and over again. So this pattern, and you know, Asian women like me are just now finding the language for this. This pattern indicates a pattern of racism. And I think, especially for me, these were these invisible wounds that I did not know what they were. I didn't know where it came from. I just thought, oh, it's from movies depicting Asian women as comfort women, as service women. And it must come from that discrimination must come from those movies or media, but after Atlanta, God, did I get an education. From the Chinese Exclusionary Act to war after war after war in our history of Asian women being sold as sex slaves. Now I understand, now I get it, this generational history of women like me being boxed in and objectified. So I had to speak out. And it was deeply uncomfortable for me to do so. I don't like being that vulnerable. I don't like being that out there, but I can't be quiet about this anymore.
In response to the deadly shootings in Atlanta and escalating anti-Asian hate crimes across North America, the Asian Canadian community is holding rallies across the country. Joining us now is Bella Huang and Steve Ding with the Asian Canadian Equity Alliance. Thanks to you both for doing this tonight. You are organizing these rallies Sunday here in Vancouver at the Art Gallery. Bella, why don't we start with you? What message are you trying to send here?
Well, first of all, it's the purpose for this rally is to mourn the lost lives, and we want to extend our deepest condolences to the victims and their families. And second, we really need to protest against violence and discrimination against Asian Canadian community. Also, we want to express our feelings, concerns, and angers about this anti-Asian hate.
And Steve, to you?
Yes, it's heartbreaking to see that what happened in Atlanta. So right now, we feel that the anger and the fear is spreading out to Canada. Actually, this we know it's going to happen to this stage. It's like we see that people are going to fall off the cliff, but we can't do anything. So we feel obliged to that we have to stand up and we have to get our voice heard.
Okay, and Bella, I mean, is there anything more that can be done at the government level in your mind?
Yeah, of course. The purpose for doing this rally is first of all to raise the public awareness on anti-Asian hate. No matter you are a witness or victim, when you see this, just report it to the police right away. And second, we also call for the police enforcement to respond this fast on those vulnerable victims. And the third level is the government. We really strongly request the government to do something to pass any bylaw, because we don't want to see there's any consequence to any of those anti-Asian hate behavior. So we strongly request the government to do something. Otherwise, it's really, for me and my family, my two kids, we don't want to go out, and we just staying home because we will concerned that when we walk on the street, somebody will just hit us, or what happened to my two little girls. So we don't want this anymore. We don't want this to get any worse.
All right, very good. Well, good luck with the rallies being held across Canada. We appreciate you both joining us tonight. Thanks. Rescues and evacuations are underway in Australia as floodwaters there continue to rise. Coming up, why the next 24 hours is so crucial. And at 6:41, live look down at the Georgia Viaduct. Tonight, BC Place Stadium. Hope you were able to enjoy the sunshine today, maybe this evening. The clouds are expecting to roll in tonight. We'll find out what's in store for the rest of the week with Nick next.
I'm here with Artistic Director Jeremy Webb. So 372 days since your last live performance. Can you talk a bit about what it felt like?
It really was magical, exciting, but what surprised a lot of us that were on stage was how terrifying it was again to, for the first time in a year, to walk out onto this stage and to see an audience gathered. But their reaction, the energy in the room, the applause, the cheers, the people in the audience were crying with the emotion of finally getting to be back, gathered together, having that communal experience.
How did you make it all work in terms of being COVID safe?
Yeah, so we followed, we've had a well-created, well-formed protocol, list of protocols in place. Everyone is physically distanced. You have to keep your mask on while seated. You're very apart from everyone else in the audience. We have a 450-seat venue, and there are only 100 people allowed max at the moment. You can't linger in the lobby. You come through, you can seat. If you have a drink, you can take your mask off, have a drink, put it back on. Everyone was adhering to that. It was wonderful. And then we guide people out very safely, row by row. So we follow all those protocols. Lots of cleaning, lots of hand washing stations and sanitizers. So, yeah.
You gave a shout out on stage to the theater community across the country.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about what you said and why.
It was a spur of the moment thing. I was backstage and I'd been listening. By that point, it was about an hour into the show, and I'd been listening to the audience react to artist after artist, and the artists were coming backstage so happy and emotional to be doing what they're trained to do again. And I thought, I really want to share that there is a light at the end of the tunnel for our colleagues across the country and all the theaters and in fact around the world. And so I thought I'll make a little post. So I took my phone out, did a little selfie video, managed to sneak a little shot of the audience and posted it that night. And we've had so many messages from friends and colleagues around the world in our industry who are still shut down and in a lot of cases in a worse off place than we are here in the Maritimes. Stay strong and stay safe. Audience, say hi. That's an amazing sound, an amazing feeling. Take care, we love you, bye-bye. It was meant as a little comedy bit, and then it kind of turned into something with a bit of heart, and it's quite emotional to watch people reacting to that.
So where does Neptune go from here?
We keep going forward, Amy. I mean, the idea right now is we have, in total, we program 6 concerts, 3 play readings that are also taking place on Friday nights in April. And then we start planning. I mean, we know what the current set of restrictions are. We know where we need to be fully open again. So it's one step at a time, relying on our audiences to feel safe, to come back in while it is safe, and then reacting, as we've done now twice, where we've got to the point of having an audience in and then
A curfew and state of emergency in Miami, Florida has been extended to March 30th. It follows a wild weekend of spring break partying in Miami Beach.
I'm from Boston. Boston, you gotta wear a mask everywhere you go. That's why you came here? Exactly.
I have the vaccine, so I don't care.
Students were a lot more unruly than in previous years. No masks, little physical distancing. Florida has some of the highest COVID-19 rates in the U.S. The county surrounding Miami Beach is seeing about 1,000 new infections daily. Johanna Wagstaff will be back with us tomorrow night. Nick Czernkovich is here with us again tonight in the forecast. I know you're going to be talking about this worm moon. I'm very curious in a little bit, but first of all, it was nice to see the sunshine today on the coast.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it looked like there was going to be a lot more rainfall that was falling with this. And I want to go back to what I was saying earlier about those rainfall totals. It's really important to keep in mind that it depends a lot on the geography, and certainly on the West Coast, you know that because areas that are sort of up against the mountain, for example, are going to get more rainfall if the wind is blowing in that direction. So the numbers that I showed you are for Vancouver Airport. Unfortunately, it's one of the only places that actually reports rainfall total, so that's the one that we've got to go with. Now, that being said, we've got a little bit of a break in the rainfall and then more on the way with this system that's pushing in. There are some special weather statements that are in effect here. We're looking at rainfall totals in coastal sections that could be about 40 to 70 millimeters, higher amounts in the higher elevations with this, and some stronger winds as well. This system is going to slide down, and it will be the next rainmaker as we head through the next couple of days. Right now we're looking at a few tapering showers down around the Victoria area. Otherwise generally clear for tonight, and that's going to be the story as we head through tomorrow morning. So cloud cover will start to move in through the morning. I think the best chance for seeing sunshine is going to be through the morning hours tomorrow. It does cloud over though as we head through tomorrow, and you see the rain starting to push down through Port Hardy, down around Tofino as we head through the afternoon hours tomorrow. It continues to slide down, and as we head through Wednesday morning, rain showers across the lower mainland. In fact, everybody's sort of seeing some of that wet weather or a little bit of snowfall through the higher elevations. Clears out though for Thursday again, and then it looks like a mix of sun and cloud for a few days. Not a whole lot of rainfall with this in general, about 5 to 15 millimeters of rain, although some areas will see a little bit more. Winds light tomorrow. They're going to start to pick up as well with this, gust to about 40 kilometers per hour as we head through Wednesday, coming out of the south or southwest. There's a look at the forecast across the region there. Temperatures tomorrow, single digits for the most part. As you head further north up the coast, we've got those showers pushing down, stronger winds as well. Generally dry, though, across the lower mainland. As we head through tomorrow, there is the risk for some rain shower activity in some of the higher elevations. A little bit of drizzle out toward Abbotsford and Hope, but I think Victoria and Vancouver, for the most part, are going to stay dry for tomorrow. So 5-day forecast for Vancouver looks like this. 10 degrees tomorrow. We've got the increase in cloud cover. Showers on Wednesday. We've got 10 to 15 millimeters, but not everybody's going to see that. And then generally a mix of sun and cloud to cloudy skies in toward Saturday. Now, Sunday is the one to watch. It's not on the long-range forecast, but this is the worm moon that Mike was talking about there. Now, why is it the worm moon? Well, full moons, generally, they're named by the month they come in, and the worm moon is so named because it symbolizes spring as the worms start to come out of the ground. Now, at least that's how the legend has it. It also happens to be, by the way, a supermoon, so if we see it, it'll be a little bit brighter, and because it falls after the spring equinox, this was news to me, it's called the Paschal moon, and it actually has a hand in determining the date of Easter. So there is a little bit of dinner conversation for you. Everybody's going to be on Wikipedia tonight looking
That's
this
right,
up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about worms and moons and
That's
all of
right.
that. All right, Nick, thanks very much.
You bet.
In southeastern Australia, torrential rain continues to cause record flooding, destroying homes and forcing thousands to flee. And as Susanna Da Silva shows us, it's just the latest natural disaster folks there have been dealing with.
The rain has been unrelenting and overwhelming, ripping entire houses from their foundations. Fast-moving flash floods have caught people off guard. This man spent a day trapped in his car, hoping the water would recede.
The river, I've never seen rubbish like, they'll go as fast as what the ski boats go and some of the race boats. I've never seen it.
The rain started late last week and hasn't stopped. Some areas have seen close to a meter of rain since then, and right now more than 10 million people are still under weather warnings.
That's why we worry about we escape or stay here, we don't know.
Close to 20,000 people have been forced out of their homes.
We can probably take 5 crates at a time.
Scrambling to save every member of their household, like this breeder whose 20 dogs had to be rescued.
It's actually unbelievable to see this amount of water, but you know, long as that all the animals and our staff are all okay, that's really all we care about, and everything else is replaceable. You know, this is really sad.
Wild animals have been displaced too. Watch this man helping a stingray that ended up in his garage. Everyone here just trying to cope with this latest disaster. Around this time last year, many of these same areas were on fire, experiencing extreme drought, then a pandemic, and now this.
When you've been through 3 or 4 incidents which are life-changing on top of each other, it can make you feel like you're at breaking point, but please know we're thinking of you.
And it's not over yet. The extreme rain isn't expected to let up until at least Wednesday. Susanna Da Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, sometimes the best source of motivation is yourself. And this 3-year-old is proving it to be the world as she takes on the slopes. We'll hear her pep talks next.
So we have 487 cereal boxes that our school community collected right before March break. And we had a massive display in the gym of Dominoes that we put together. The students all came down, and so all the students came down individually in their classes and laid out the cereal boxes.
It was pretty cool. Our whole class was yelling and screaming. It was really cool. I was wowed. Yeah, wowed. I thought it was pretty cool until it stopped halfway through.
There was one little hiccup that we got going right away, but it was just amazing to see it all together. And this was really important for us today to get this display up so that the kids could see all of the boxes kind of together to see what an impact it is.
I was like, whoa, it was very surprising. I was not expecting it. I was pretty surprised, really. I thought, how much would this all weigh if you put it all together? And I thought, what would happen if you jumped in it?
This morning, they're all like, wow, because again, when we collected the cereal boxes, they stayed in the classroom, so they never got to see the full amount together, so that's why we put it out today. And yeah, all the kids have been coming in. Some parents have been in this morning and saying, wow, that's impressive. So it's amazing to see it all in one place.
It's very important because everybody needs to have something to eat, and it's something that I think we can do better on, but I think it's doing really good. It feels great that all these people are going to be able to eat what they dream to eat, you know? Like to have all the good food.
My name is Kazeen Van Huvelen. I'm an Inuit artist in my studio here in Bowmanville, Ontario, and I'm originally from Iqaluit, Nunavut. You know, art has always been a way to connect and contribute to Inuit culture. Spending a lot of time at home means I'm more concerned with comfort and the things I surround myself with. Part of that has influenced my desire to make a rug. It's a sculptural work. It's about 8.5 by 12.5 feet. And it is a large sealskin. This piece reminds me a lot of home. It's a sealskin. It does remind me of stories that I've heard of very large sea creatures. So this is a sealskin, but it's at the scale of a whale. From what I've seen, Hamuyuk is going to be an incredible building, and it's going to house so much incredible artwork, and so I think I'm just really happy that this piece is going to be included in the exhibition and that it'll be surrounded by so much other great art.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Celebrate Surrey's brightest leaders with CBC Vancouver's Dan Burrett at the virtual Surrey Board of Trade Top 25 Under 25 Awards on April 22nd. Get your tickets today at businessinsurrey.com. And on April 25th, CBC Vancouver's Gloria Makarenko will host Vancouver Cherry Blossom Festival's Sakura at Home. Visit vcbf.ca for tickets and more information.
All right, Isabel Regam in for Dan Burrett for the next couple of nights. What are you watching for the 11 o'clock tonight?
We're following news out of Boulder, Colorado, where police say multiple people, including a police officer, have been killed at a shooting at a grocery store. Few details are available at this time, but we'll have the latest tonight. And BC veterinarians are calling for COVID vaccine priority. The Society of BC Veterinarians says in an open letter, while other healthcare professionals and frontline workers have been added to the list of priority for April, it says vets have not been added to that list and says it has left some members feeling undervalued in the healthcare system. That's coming up at 11.
All right, from looking ahead to your 11 o'clock news to looking ahead to obstacles out on the road.
For drivers in Prince Edward Island, it came in the form of another traveler who did not want to share the road. This seal decided the right place to get some sun, of course, was right in the middle of a Prince Edward Island highway. Estimated weight of the sunning seal was about 800 pounds, so you can't just shove him over. That's about 360 kilograms. Efforts to coax the animal off the road didn't amount to much.
Yeah, it blocked traffic for about 90 minutes before returning to the ocean, a half a kilometer away on its own. It's the third time this month the slippery suspect has merited PEI police attention. Experts say record low ice levels are driving the animals onto the shore and onto the highway there. Well, alpine resorts are a common destination for families taking winter vacations.
But one family from Fernie is going all in on alpine life as they raise a young prodigy on the slopes.
I'm gonna walk like a duck.
That is 3-year-old Adia Lydums, expertly swerving around those trees in her little toddler skis. Her father noticed Adia reciting monologues to herself as she learns, so of course he mic'd her up to capture how she peps herself up.
Yeah, you might be asking how a toddler became this good at skiing. She is amazing. Adia's family loves skiing day in and day out. Going to be at the resort 4 or 5 days a week.
So it's kind of an individual sport. So they get to really like self-assess and what they are comfortable with and what they feel like taking a risk doing. And so I think it's just a good medium for life is to just allow them to take risks on the mountain skiing, and they can hopefully relate that to their everyday lives.
The family vlogs their Adia and her 2 brothers' skiing adventures on YouTube. So you can check out more of that there. She is adorable.
So cute.
What a great skier, too.
And I do the same thing. I think the only difference is as adults, we keep it inside our head, but walk like a duck, pizza. When I ski, that's what I try to do.
I'm an expert après skier.
There you go. Any pep talk for that?
Yeah, no, just stick with the plan.
Okay.
All right, just a reminder, you can always watch our newscasts online anytime at cbc.ca/BC. Isabel back at 11 o'clock. Thanks for watching tonight.